So now can you give control space? No, remove it. Yeah. If you see here in the parseInt, we were getting string of s. So what is the difference between value of method and string parseInt method? Both are internally giving us return value of integer only, right? So even the value of you got the return type as integer, and in the parseInt we are getting the return type of integer. But why do we have the same logic in two different methods? Any idea? Any guesses? Even your value of is giving me the same output, and parseInt is also giving the same output. Can someone guess it out?
Can you repeat the question, Sneha?
In the integer dot value of method, that is also returning me a return type of integer. And integer dot parseInt is also returning a type of integer. So what is the difference? Why do we need to have two methods in that case?
ParseInt value of doesn't allow string. We cannot pass.
Janaki, can you remove that parseInt type value of?
I think parseInt accepts only string. Value of accepts float or double.
It is accepting both your primitive and the object. And remove that 5, Janaki, just value of and string. So if you see the remove that braces also. Give control space. So if you see here, you can see the value of is giving you an option of both primitive and the class string, whereas parseInt is giving you an option of only the object. So that is the main difference. And if you wanted to get the relevant primitive value, so can you now take the first option value of int and then after that, can you remove the toString and give control space again?
Okay.
Pass some value in the value of
Dot you want to.
yeah. After that, try dot. And then give control space. Now, if you scroll down, right? Scroll down. Yeah, just wait a minute. So if you see this, wait. If you see there are multiple methods like int value, long value, short value, right? Which is internally giving you the relevant primitive values. So can you just click on the int value? So what is it returning? The return type? Can you click on the error? It cannot convert from int to string. So whenever you want to retrieve a primitive value from your object class integer, in that case, you can go ahead and use this value of int value method so that it will give you the primitive output. Okay. In that case, now instead of giving string s, you have to give the value int some value on your left side. You're assigning it instead of string, replace that with int. Okay. So this is the way. So what we are doing internally is we are converting the primitive to an integer class and the same way from integer to primitive class. So how is it happening behind? So for this concept, we have something called named as auto boxing and unboxing. Boxing and unboxing. So what is actually this auto boxing? Auto boxing is whenever you're trying to convert a primitive into the relevant object. In that case, it is called as auto boxing, just done automatically. You don't need to do anything. But if you wanted to convert from your object to the primitive, that is your unboxing, you're unwrapping the data, that is called unboxing. So you don't need to confuse about the terms. Auto boxing is automatically converts from primitive to your object. The reverse is called as unboxing. Now in your 13th line, Janaki, you just give double, capital double, don't remove the dot operator and just create a reference equal to assign your reference D. And semicolon.
Oh.
No, D.
You want D.
Line number 7, you have D, right? Just assign it. So what are we doing here? What are we trying to do here? What is the error you have there? Okay, you have to make it static, or you bring that within your class, within your main method. Yeah, cut and bring it within your main method. Can someone say what are we doing in the line number 13? And Sisa,
We are assigning the primitive to object.
assigning a primitive to object.
Object.
So this is boxing or unboxing?
Auto boxing.
Auto boxing is converting a primitive to your object, right? But right now I'm assigning some primitive to my object. So this falls into boxing or unboxing?
Boxing.
So now in another line, next line, D equal to double dot, double class, double dot, value of, give some double value within that. And over the outside give semicolon. So what are we trying to do here? Yoga, can you tell me what are we trying to do here? Line number 15. So we have on to your right, you have a double dot value of, this is the object or a primitive value. Yoga, I'm not able to hear you. Okay, Chaitanya, meanwhile you can see me. Like what are we doing on your right side? Double dot value of, is it a primitive value or is it object value? Primitive. Line number 15 after your assignment, is it a primitive or object? Primitive. Primitive how? In line number 15, you have double dot value of, and then you have 7.89D. Is it a primitive value or is it a double wrapper class?
So the return type is class type, right? Double.
No, I'm not asking for return type. I'm just asking the format. What I'm doing. The double is what is the purpose? The returning is okay. What is actually this? Is it a wrapper or is it a primitive value directly given?
It's a wrapper class value.
Okay, so we are getting the primitive value from your object reference, that is double dot value of. So which is from your wrapper class double, you're trying to get a primitive value and assigning to the variable D, which is of type double primitive type, right? So basically you're converting the object to the double primitive or to a primitive, which is called as unboxing. So after line number 15, just comment and say unboxing, Janaki. Comment and then give unboxing.
Yeah, it's not clear for me. Like value of function was returning double class.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that is give value. Can you over on value of method, Janaki? Can you over on that? Or just give control for the value of. Yeah, if you see the particular value of accepting an input of primitive double and returning finally a double value, right? But you're assigning it that to a primitive called double variable, double primitive type. Okay, let's make it more simple. Like in the line number 15, instead of D, can we have D2 as a variable and assign to double class? Yeah, and the return type is double class. Copy double and paste it before D2. So now in the next line, assign D equal to D2. Okay, so what are we doing now here? Can someone see? Value of is giving me double wrapper class, and I'm giving the object directly to my double primitive type D. So what is this conversion? So from my object, I'm giving the value to my primitive D, which is called as unboxing. In the line number 14, the value D, which is
This line 16 also unboxing actually. We are assigning
yeah,
value object.
the line number 15 and 16 both are same. Only difference we did is right now. Earlier we were directly assigning to the variable D. Now we took it as an object and then assigning in the line number 16. Okay. So basically, whatever you receive as an object, we are assigning directly to a primitive value. That is called unboxing. Now, can you have one more line in the next line? Capital float class, float wrapper class. Okay. And have some reference equal to create some value directly, some value, assign some value of float. So what is it? Is it unboxing or boxing? Give semicolon. So what are we trying to do here? In line number 17.
We are assigning a primitive value to
Object, right? So whenever you're trying to give a primitive to an object, which is directly getting assigned, right? You don't need to do any type of conversions here. It is directly getting assigned. But in case of from object to the primitive, we are independent of using value of method or a parsing method and or a int value or long value, whatever methods provided by the relevant class, we are using them and internally converting and assigning to a primitive value. So there the object to a primitive is called unboxing and primitive to object is called as boxing. Okay. Any doubts so far here?
So Sneha, like whatever we are using this integer value of or parse int, everything will return the object value, right?
Yeah, unless you make int value method. Right? In line number 11, using an int value, and so you are assigning to a primitive type. But instead of that, you can directly assign it only if you use value of also. Because which is internally giving you a double wrapper class value, and you're assigning that to a double primitive type in the line number 16, which is also possible. Instead of assigning that, you can directly assign it to that D. Anyway, that is possible. Only thing is they have given the additional methods which is used based on your logic when you come into picture.
Neha, can you tell again what is boxing? Primitive to object.
Yes.
Object to primitive is unboxing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. In line number 11, we are using int value. So we are getting the
Primitive directly, which is
primitive
again your
value from object.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Here in double, what we are doing, Sneha?
In double,
in 15 line.
yeah, in double, we are just taking the object or value, which is D2 is nothing but wrapper class, double wrapper class value, and you're assigning directly to your primitive value D in line number 16. You can do that in 15 also. To avoid the confusion, I did it in the next one. That's it. Instead of double D2, you can just still assign D equal to double dot value of 7.89D. That is also possible.
So in line number 15, it's still we are getting the value to an object.
Yeah, from the object. Yes.
From
So both are unboxing.
From the object and storing it in the object only.
No. The actual unboxing is happening in line number 16. So the double dot value of is returning you a double class value D2. And in the line number 16, I'm doing the unboxing activity. From my object D2, I'm assigning to the value D primitive type. And that is where the unboxing is happening. So you can remove that comment, Janaki, in the line number 15. Yeah, so actual unboxing is happening in the line number 16. You're just fetching the value of double class in line number 15 and doing the unboxing activity in line number 16.
Okay, Sneha.
Okay. So this is the way we can wrap up your classes, and that is the purpose. And whenever you are, so why do we need wrapper class? One more advantage is whenever we are designing a database, right? For example, if you're having an ID column and that ID column is alphanumeric, and in your database, you are just creating as a varchar. But right now, still for testing purpose, you're not giving alphanumeric data. You are just giving numeric data. So DB will accept all your inputs. If you pass, even it as A, B, C, D, or even if you pass 1, 2, 3, 4, the database will store it. From Java perspective, if you're supposed you're creating a variable, say string ID, then there is no issue. You can directly get any input and save it. What if you have created the data type as integer and you're trying to save it into a database as string? There you might get into a trouble. You're getting an input as integer, but trying to store in the database as string, but you don't have any conversions happening in between. For that purpose, the wrapper classes would be more beneficial for you to convert the relevant integer value to a string and store them into the database. So all these, you don't need to build your own logic. Everything is already in place. You need to just use either toString method, or you have to use the relevant value of or parseInt method to convert or transform your object to the relevant actual data type and then save it into the database. So that is what the wrapper classes is all about. And this uses your factory pattern. And now you know what is the purpose of it. So you can try with all permutations and combinations. Like once you get integer value, you're trying to convert to a double. So let's see now. You create one more next line, after line number 17. Can we have integer dot?
Can you tell about that factory pattern once? Like how you are saying, like we are implementing using factory pattern, just one liner.
So what is factory pattern here? Can someone say why do we need factory pattern? We saw yesterday, right? What is the main advantage of using factory pattern? So you have already created that class. Can you go into that book factory class, Janet? Yeah. So what are you trying to do here? Based on the case, like line number 9, you have some PB, and based on that, you're creating a reference in line number 10. And if it is a DB, you're creating new digital book in line number 13. So basically, your object is getting created on runtime based on your book type. Same way, if you go to a numeric class, if you go to the integer class, right now you're not able to view it. The integer dot class, which is opened in the third fund. Yeah. If you see there, there is in the below, right, attach source, you can see something called scroll up. You can see something after class, final class extends java.lang.number. Right? So what is that number? That is your topmost class, which is a super class. And that has all your methods like your int value, your toString, and everything you have there, but there is nothing defined there. Whatever you want, you are overriding the logic in the relevant classes like integer.class, float.class. If you see any type of classes, internally that is extending your number abstract class, okay? And all your methods are internally overridden by the logic which you wanted. The second thing, when you're using the value of method, you have the value of method even in your double, even in your integer class, right? You're having the same method in both the places, right? So in that case, how is it is able to identify the value of method is from the relevant type or not, based on the type you use before it, like either it's a double or integer or float, which type of class are you using? Basically a static method, and from that you're trying to use that logics. So this is one way to get your object values into your primitive types, which is done using your factory pattern. So internally it is following a factory pattern design, but we are just using the factory pattern methods as value of and parseInt. That is the reason we tried yesterday the factory pattern code. Okay. So there is also one more way you can create your integer class using your constructor. So so far you have seen only through static methods. The other approach is, now can you create double? Yeah, we'll have double again. Double.
Variable or class?
Class. Double class. Create some reference equal to new double. This is usual object creation, right? New double, control space. So they are like again two overloaded constructors, one which can accept double value, another which can accept string, which is similar to your value of method. So if you want to go with static method, you can go that. Or if you wanted to pass your value using your constructor, you can use this. So there are two ways you can use your wrapper classes, either through your constructors or through your static methods. Okay. So both internally gives you finally the same result. So can you use the first one, double primitive, and give some value within that? Okay, now create a primitive double, next line, double dp, you just have dp equal to d3. So what are we doing here? Again, we are converting an object to a primitive, which is unboxing. Right? Now, you just give double wrapper class in the next line, d4 equal to 3.3d. So what are we doing here? Which is again like giving a primitive to your object, which is boxing. Okay, so you can create your wrapper classes through your constructors or through the relevant static methods value of or parsing method, and get the relevant output using like what you want, like either as a wrapper class or as a primitive type, you can fetch it. Is voice breaking for everyone? Is my voice breaking for everyone?
But little bit of sound.
I don't think I'm getting sound here. I'm not sure. Okay. Fine. So if you don't have any questions, we can wrap this. So basically the wrapper classes, you got an idea, right? If you have any questions over here, you can ask me now.
So basically this wrapper class, we will go mainly for the primitive that are object conversions only, right? Mainly for
Yeah, when
handling
you
the
start
primitive.
using generics or when you start using collections, you will be most probably using only these wrapper classes and not primitive types, because all your collections will accept only objects or classes and not your primitive types.
Okay, Sneha,
Okay, so where complete object-oriented language comes into picture, right? So in that place, we'll never use primitives. If you are using some kind of logical programming, right? Some kind of conditions or criteria or any business logic for your orchestration purpose, in that place, you can go ahead and use your primitive. But if you're trying to consume it and then use it on certain kind of operations, then you can't use your primitive types. And we'll get a better approach once we start learning the collections a little bit on generics. Then you'll know why we are actually going to what to say, the wrapper classes and not primitives in a better approach, because you'll have more hands-on there. Right now, you know, like you can convert your primitive to a class and class to a primitive using these methods. That's it. That is what your wrapper class is all about. Conversion from primitive to objects is called, or a different purpose on the alternative way is called as your wrapper classes. And these are called boxing and unboxing, auto boxing or unboxing. This is what the names they usually go with.
and it comes under that encapsulation concept, right? This
Yeah,
wrapper
basically
class.
the encapsulation. Yeah. Okay. So do you remember the concept immutable? I didn't cover that yet in this. Can someone say what we were discussing on immutable last time? Now, Janaki, can you, after line number 19, can you have a sys out and print d3.hashcode and the d3 value? d3.hashcode. Okay. Now, after this line, Again give double D3, so D3 equal to new double of uh, 2.2D, and then copy paste your line 20 and print it again. Save it and execute now. So what happened here? The D3 value is 1.1 and you have a different hash code. And after that, I'm assigning again some value to it. And then I'm getting a different hash code. So we'll do one more change. Like after line number 20, yeah, give D3 equal to 1.1D. And print again your sysout. Yeah, execute it. So whenever I'm trying to reinitiate my D3 with the same value and again, there is no change in my hash code. Basically, your memory address is not changing. Your value still remains same. So there is no change happen. But when I'm trying to change it in line number 23, where I'm reassigning a value with 2.2, in my sysout, the D3 is showing me as 2.2, but internally the hash code is changing to a different place. Basically, your memory address is pointing to a different place. So what does that mean? Whenever you assign some kind of primitive value to your wrapper classes, the values are immutable. They cannot be changed once initialized. You can rechange or reassign some values, but that will be stored in a different memory or different reference, and it will not be in the same place. So basically, like if you're having x equal to 10 and you're giving x equal to 12 in some place, what happens? The x will print you as 12, but both x reference will not be in the same memory location. You will have x equal to 10 in one place, x equal to 12 in another place. So there is a copy of x getting created in another place with a new value, and not in the same place x is getting overridden with 12. So that is the reason the wrapper classes are called as immutable. It will never be saving a new value in the same location. It will create a new location with the same reference D3, and that will have the value of 2.2. So the old one will be into the garbage collection after some point if you're not reusing it. That is what immutable. Immutable means your values cannot be changed in the same memory part. You can reassign or you can create something, but it will be again considered as a new object, not as an existing object. That is what immutable means. Any questions here? Can I take the silence as yes or no?
Nothing from my end.
Okay, so this is all about wrapper classes. We'll be seeing tomorrow exception handling. And once we are good with this exception handling, we should be good to start with collections from next week. And also, can you all guys tell me, like, do you need any vacations coming week? Because it's like you'll have less work in your office too. Like if you have any vacation plans, please let me know. So I think there's an enter going on in your screen, Jan. And you can let me know if you need any vacation so we can plan accordingly next week classes. If you want any break, something, because again from Jan it will be regular classes. If you want any breaks, so please let me know. Or can I give the leave planned by myself if you guys don't have anything?
We can take small leave 1 week
1 week.
if everyone are okay.
Sorry, 1 week is too high. I'll be giving few assignments on the concepts once I complete exception handling. Post that you can take a break. And by the time you come out of break, I need at least you to complete 5 to 10 programs in your hacker rank with the concepts you learned, so that we can start more into collections better approach. That would be a second part of Java. So the first part would be this. And we also have one more concept, abstract class and interface. So I think hardly in another 2 classes, we should be good enough to go for a break. So if you guys are okay, we can take break from 28. You guys are okay to that, or let me know how is it?
Yeah, fine for me.
Okay, others?
Yeah, okay for us.
Okay, so we'll have a small assignment work on 28 so that you can continue on that, a mini project work. So with all the concepts you learned, and also the HackerRank programs, you can go ahead and post that. You'll have a mini quiz on 3rd, right? So not in the class time. After class time, you might need to complete it and submit by the day. And from 3rd, you'll be starting using GitHub, push your changes, everything into your remote repository, so that I can check whether you're doing your assignments on time and pushing it or not from GitHub instead of following you often. So that will be happening from Jan 1st week. And if you haven't installed your STS, please do install. And I'll be sharing you a few shortcut keys and how should you debug everything tomorrow once again. And we'll go with exception handling concept. And once we are good with exception handling, in the exception handling, we'll be covering the inheritance concept and the interface and the abstract class in a better approach in the next class on Monday. And post that, we'll take a break from 28th. If we cover hopefully by Monday, we can take a break from 28th. And we'll start again back on 3rd. Or we can take from 29 to anything is okay for me. But unless I cover up these concepts, in exception handling, in a basic approach, and then through your inheritance and interface approach. Once we are good with this, we can take a break. And yeah, if you don't have any questions, we can wrap up for the day. Okay, I think silence is okay. Let me close for the day. And please come up with questions if you have any. We can discuss tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.